Lex Fridman, the popular podcast host, he invited Zelensky onto his podcast over the weekend. And Zelensky tweeted back and said, okay, challenge accepted. Lex Fridman is native Russian. We don't know if they're going to speak in Russian or English or some combination, but it seems that this is a...
Before we continue, we invite you to follow our channel, the only American show reporting live from Ukraine every day.
Sounds from Ukraine. Let's go to Ukraine now, and Joseph Lindsley. Joe?
Oh, sorry, Bob. Now I'm connected. We got to listen to the song a bit longer. Hello from Lviv. And with so much going on in the world, from what's happening in Syria to the nation of Georgia, and of course here in Ukraine, I thought this song was appropriate. I heard it on Thanksgiving Day here in Ukraine. It's sung by Binya Stewart. He's one of two Ohio musicians. And Bob, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, we got you. We got you loud and clear. I was a little worried for a minute.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, this is sung by Binya Stewart. Interestingly, one of two musicians from Ohio, now living, working, and volunteering and singing here in Ukraine. And on Thanksgiving Day, there was a concert in Lviv, and people gathered from different countries, Ukraine, of course, the U.S., Finland, France, and we're all singing this. They were all singing the song together at L'Chaim, a Jewish restaurant here in Lviv, and it's a bit of dark humor. It's a new version of an old American song about going off to World War II. So long, it's been good to know you. You might think that sometimes as we look at all the fires going on metaphorically around the world, but it's also a song of great purpose and a sense of hope. We'll get back together again. It's a mighty big war that has to be won. And when I heard the people sing that on Thanksgiving Day at that restaurant here in Lviv, you could really feel, you feel the sadness, but also the resolve. And, this city of Lviv, it's so full of music. And we have a colleague visiting from Kyiv. She's from Kyiv, and she said she feels like she's living in a musical because everywhere you go in Lviv, there's people singing. In the bar, the other day, people leaning over a table, quietly chanting and humming over their tea and their beer. On the street corners, they're singing. This morning, I had a meeting in a coffee shop, and that girl from Kyiv was there, and we started our meeting, and then all of a sudden, a table of 6 people on the other side of the cafe start singing at like 9 a.m, start singing this very loud, ancient Ukrainian chant. And it's everywhere you turn, you will hear people singing, and which is especially needed in these these very difficult and dark times. And I think of, we see so many things moving around at this moment. For example, in Syria, the Assad regime has been allied with Russia, and it's a weird position to be in for people here in Ukraine because they don't want to be cheering on the Islamic militants because they don't believe in freedom. But the actions of the Islamic militants against Assad, it's not good for Russia. And since 1971, Russia has had a naval base in Syria since Soviet times. And if the way the rebels are moving now, they could potentially quite soon cut access to that base off, and this will prevent the Assad regime that's still hanging on from having access to Russia's naval base, and that really could cause a big problem for Russia. We did see that Assad, the dictator of Syria, fled to Russia. And then, of course, we have not so far from there, a little bit north, in the nation of Georgia, which in their native language is called Sakartvelo. Georgia is on the Black Sea. It's a stunning nation of high mountains and the Black Sea coast. It's known for its wine and for its sense of freedom. And they suffered for so many years under Sovietism. Actually, Stalin was born there, but the people in 1991 thought they got their freedom. And there are massive, massive protests there every single day for the past several days. The pro-Russian regime won a disputed election, and they're clamping down. They're changing the constitution. The president of the country, President Salom Zurabichvili, she is the only state institution, just herself, that is standing with the people of Georgia in these protests. In fact, President Saloma, she was in the streets of Tbilisi herself, standing right up, facing the riot police. So pretty dramatic scenes there. And the riot police are using water cannon to attack the protesters. And so there was a video that was circulating throughout Ukraine of young people just bravely and like insanely smiling as the water, sprayed, trying to knock them down. And for Ukrainians, those scenes are very much reminiscent of their revolution in 2014. And it's a reminder that Ukraine is a rare example of people that were able to get through such a clampdown by the authorities, and that's the very reason why Ukrainians are facing ballistic missiles today. So it's a lot moving around. And then I heard the news about 4:00 this morning of President Biden pardoning his son Hunter, and I know there's a lot of American political stuff about that, but the reason why it's relevant for Ukraine is that almost immediately people close to Trump started to use that as a way to attack Ukraine, because Hunter Biden, among the companies he's worked with is that firm called Burisma, which it still amazes me. Everyone from Tucker Carlson to CNN and the BBC still misses the correct details about that. But Burisma is not a Ukrainian firm. It was run by a member of the regime that Ukrainians kicked out of their country in 2014. The regime went fleeing to Russia, and only at that point did they begin to pay Hunter Biden. But unfortunately, on X, people are using this moment of Biden's pardon of Hunter to try to weaken support for Ukraine. So there's a lot of different pieces moving around in these moments, and also we should note that Lex Fridman, the popular podcast host, he challenged, he invited Zelensky onto his podcast over the weekend. And Zelensky tweeted back and said, "Okay, challenge accepted." Lex Fridman is native Russian, but he seems, he's anti-Putin, and it's a 3-hour podcast. So, but we don't know if they're going to speak in Russian or English or some combination. But it seems that this is a response to when Klitschko, the former world heavyweight champ, he tweeted to Joe Rogan, "Hey, let's get some Ukrainian voices into these American podcasts." Rogan still has not responded to Zelensky, but another popular podcast host, Rogan has not responded to Klitschko, but this is a big development that President Zelensky might be on one of the most popular podcasts in America.
That'll be interesting. So many moving parts now. Before we let you go, Joseph, I'm wondering if you could just give us a quick take on President-elect Trump's man now who will be the assistant to the president's special envoy for Ukraine and Russia. He is the former national security advisor to Donald Trump. He's 80 years old, and I don't know much about him. Keith Kellogg, do you?
Yeah, actually, that was met with a great welcome here. That General Kellogg was named as the special envoy to Ukraine. He's been strong about Ukraine, especially in 2022 and 2023. The past few months, he's been negative, but the idea here is that he's been more critical of the slow roll of aid. The Biden administration's slow support for Ukraine these past months, more so than he's not been a critic of Ukraine itself, but rather of weak Western support. So there's a lot of hope. And notably, President Zelensky said that he would be open to some kind of negotiation, temporarily letting Russia have some of the land it currently has, if unoccupied Ukraine, free Ukraine, could be in NATO. That's a pretty extraordinary change.
And before we sign off, a text that came in after our talk on Wednesday. Bob, thank Joseph for us. You're absolutely correct. He reminds us of what we have to be thankful for and to thank God for our blessings here. There you go. Leave you with that.
Thanks. Sorry for the chaos today.
Yeah, always glad that you finally connect. We stop worrying. Talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for introducing Ukraine on your social media pages. That's very important that much more people can get more information about the situation here and how everybody can help Ukraine to stay stronger and to save all the world.
Что он сказал?
Well, which side are you on?
На чьей ты стороне?
Come on now. Oh, which side are you on?
На чьей ты стороне?